were working together was no accident. The President and Vice President deliberately ignored warnings before the war from international intelligence services, from the CIA, and from their own Pentagon that the claim was false.
Gore said this alone renders the president and his administration unfit to fight terrorism.
If they believe these flimsy scraps, then who would want them in charge of anything? Are they too dishonest or too gullible? Take your pick.
But the Gore who now dismisses Iraq's ties to terrorism bears no resemblance to the Gore of 1992. In the heat of that campaign, Gore accused the first President Bush of ignoring Saddam Hussein's ties to terror.
When there were repeated incidents of terrorism in which Iraq had a part, terrorists operating openly in Baghdad, and repeated warnings from our national security people telling the Bush administration that Saddam was on a crash program to develop nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, and other weapons of mass destruction.
Gore's attacks in this campaign year also ignore the Clinton Justice Department indictment in 1998 against Osama bin Laden, asserting that Al-Qaeda, quote, reached an agreement with Iraq not to work against the regime of Saddam Hussein, and that they would work cooperatively with Iraq, particularly in weapons development. Gore also mischaracterized the 9/11 Commission's conclusion about Iraq's ties or links to the 9/11 attacks.
When the bipartisan 9/11 Commission issued its report last week finding no credible evidence of an Iraq Al-Qaeda connection, it should not have caught the White House off guard.
The Commission only said there was no evidence Iraq played a role in 9/11. It reported several ties between Al-Qaeda and Iraq before 9/11, but found no proof of cooperation. But it did not disagree ties that the President and Vice President Cheney have pointed to did in fact exist.
The Vice President is saying, I think, that there were connections between Al-Qaeda and Saddam Hussein's government. We don't disagree with that.
Gore also said the White House relies on what he called digital brown shirts to intimidate reporters who question administration policy. Gore is now the first former vice president in memory to accuse a president of using Nazi tactics on America's free press. In Washington, Major Garrett, Fox News.